This is a land which was once named Prussia. In the west it is bounded by the river Vistula, north by the Baltic Sea, east by the Lithuanian forests. The native inhabitants of the land, woods, lakes and rivers were the Prusses, a Baltic pagan people. In the 14th century, the monastic knights will have a system of about 120 brick castles in Prussia and Gdańsk, Pomerania, which was broken away by force from Poland. Marlbork, the most important of them, and the capital of the state, was the seat of the great masters. They built their future capital at the very end of the moraine uplands stretching along the Vistula's river's arm, Nogat, a place convenient for commerce and the administration of the country. The Colossus, which covered over 20 hectares, and about which in the Middle Ages it was said that it was the largest pile of bricks north of the Alps, was not brought into existence in a while. It was constructed by degrees since 1274 for over 1.5 centuries. This part, which was later called the High Castle, was erected earliest, as early as in the 13th century. The structure, composed of 4 wings forming a cloister courtyard in the middle, became a cloister, the seat of a monastery. From the side of the courtyard, the entirety is encircled with open-work cloisters leading to the most important rooms of the cloister and, above all, to the monumental Church of the Virgin Mary. The medium castle was founded during the 14th century in the place of the former approaches to the castle. Upon arrival from Venice, the great master, with his court, and the great commander, came to live here. The low castle, that is, the approaches to the castle, came into being in the 14th and 15th centuries as economic facilities for the entire castle complex. As early as in the first stage of the construction, the Teutonic Knights erected a church of the Virgin Mary, patron of the castle and the whole order. It was a central place for the spiritual life of the monastery, a place of religious setting of the elections of great masters, a place of prayers during canonical hours, and after meals, and even a place for administering some penalties. The portals which went to the chapel, formerly called the Golden Gate, conveyed the idea of the Last Judgment. The train of wise maidens, guided by ecclesia, symbolized the redeemed. The blind synagogue headed the stupid maidens, the rejected. But first and foremost, the decoration of the portals showed how the Teutonic Knights conceived the sense of their mission in Prussia. Heretics, the Prussians, were depicted in the form of hybrids and animals, who dared twice to fan an uprising against the knights of the German order. Incorporated in the prologue to the statutes and based on St. John's vision, the mystical framework of the order, understood as a detachment of knight angels fighting with heathens, found here its full realization. The defenders of the Christian faith might not forget their devotional practices. The monastic priests saw to it, did not have their own families apart from the family of the gathering. The monastic rule imposed an obligation to run hospital activity. In hospitals, there were separate wards for the infectiously sick and those in malignant fever, and separate ones for the mentally sick. There was a division of men's wards and those for the monastic servants. The hospitals were taken care of by half-brethren, tertiaries and servant brethren. This magnificent structure is the Great Master's Palace, the pearl in the crown of these walls. It was erected along with the imposing complex of the Medium Castle when Marlbork became, as from 1309, the capital city of the state. The building of the palace, in its final form, was started from the mid-14th century. All the novelties used in European magnates' residences were used here both in the architectural form and decoration of the interiors. Hence, there were the astonishing elevations of the palace, which were seemingly contradictory to the conceptions of Gothic art. Any successive master resided here with his train. The most important political, economic and military decisions were taken here. The office functioned here. The principal story of the palace housed private rooms of the Great Master, which were richly ornamented with wall paintings. He, as head of state, received deputations from the whole of Europe in the summer and winter refectories. Up until the end of the Great War with Poland in 1409-1411, the Teutonic state in Prussia excellently prospered economically. The principle of profit reigned, as if the order was a manufacturing and trading business. The Teutonic knights often opposed the economic interest of their own subjects, for instance by restricting the freedom of trade of the Gdańsks, Torrens and Elblągs townspeople. Upon the conquest of Prussia and bloody crushing of the risings of the land's populace, a new era of annual expeditions to Lithuania started, and finally wars with Christian Poland commenced since 1308. It was 1457, the time of the 13 Years' War. It was the time of a deadly dispute with its own subjects and Poland, the time of a catastrophe. This is how the bright star of the knights in white capes died away. Still, look, Master, and say, isn't it beautiful?